It's me, name's Sony. Welcome back to another video. Today we are back in the streaming setup. This is just a presentation on Tubby stuff today. Just a quick short video actually. It's there's not much to show, but that's because it involved quite a lot of behind the scenes work. There's not much to show at all anyway. But also there was a small upgrade to this scene here, which is the Tubby Super Cat over here. I've now upgraded his backend systems to work with my transport system. So there we go. When I press the button, woo! You can see Tubby also gets a floating bubble. He's got his own little mini bubble as well. It's really cool. So here we go. Whee! Tubby's got a little mini bubble. Yay! And he's got his own little seating places in each of these areas for now. Of course, he doesn't sort of follow me entirely wherever I go in this. For example, if I jump over to seat 3, he's still in this same area, so he's got his own place over there. But of course, today I'm just going to pop over to this side for now. In fact, if I switch back to seat 1 so that we can see Tubby float over. Whee! Tubby's got his own little spot here as well. He's just sitting in the middle of the dance floor for now, just for the fun of it. I need to figure out what I want to do with this area, but for now I'm just using it for green screen tech. So let's hop over to this side of the room and pop open the green screen. Let's hit the green screen button first. There we go. And then, woo! There we go. So, we're having a look at Tubby Supercat's project today, We've just got the same control system as before, as the previous video. So here we go. I can just sort of run around, usual buttons. He hasn't got much of an addition to the controls that he had before. I've just been testing him in this little area here, including little steps and stuff and how he sort of manages that. But there's something cool going on in this area other than that, and that is the voxel generator. Now, one of the things about the sort of platforming style games, especially the Nintendo games, platforming style games from Nintendo, is that they have a very good style to them that has this sort of, it almost looks like they build their levels the same way in different games. So for example, if I was to switch over to the browser, in fact let me close all of my tabs, because I don't want to be showing all of my random tabs open. Let me load up an image of Mario Odyssey, for example. Right, I'm just going to type Mario Odyssey here on the green screen. Let's switch over to regular green screen. There we go. And you can see here, need to fix this. We don't really want to look at those sections. In fact, it's not really Mario Odyssey that I should be looking at. It is something more like Mario 3D World. This gives you a real good example of what I'm really looking at. It's sort of level blobs like this, right? If you look carefully at the way that they build their levels in Mario 3D World, and Mario 3D Land does this as well, you'll notice that each of the blocks seems to have a certain shape to it. It just seems to sort of have a consistent way of building a level. You can see that in these areas as well, where you've got this consistent level structure to them, and they sort of have, it's almost like a voxel system, only it has diagonals and stuff like that. And this applies to each of the levels that you can see, even in the map screens. So let's see if we can get a picture of that, for example. Right, even in the map screens, you can see here that the game has this sort of consistent shaping to it. Although there's a few differences in certain places where, for example, this corner here is rounded. Let's try and get this image up here. This corner here on this side is rounded here. This is an inside corner going this way and then that way. And then this side here, same corner, but it's completely solid. It's a sharp corner. So there's a little bit of randomness going on here. It's a little bit of an unusual build. Now I would assume, of course, they've gone and redone these levels, but I feel like behind the scenes they probably have something that allows them to build levels quite easily, quite structurally, sound. If, for example, we have a look at the new Kirby game, which is called I Don't Have a Clue. Kirby on Switch, what's it called? It'll tell me now. There we go, it's this one. Of course it's in German. Not useful at all. Oh, come on. Just tell me what it called. What it's called. There we go, and the forgotten. I should have figured that out. Vergessen, right? Vergessen, yeah, Vergessenerland. It's pretty obvious. Oh god, I need to get my German better. Of course it shows in German. What else would it show in, right? But anyways, if you have a look at this game, right? Look at the level structures, not these areas in particular, but certain areas of the game where you start to notice that, and the way in which he moves as well is very, very important in this game actually. You'll start to notice that the level structures seem to have a very similar design structure to the way that the Mario 3D world levels are built as well. There's this sort of voxelness to it. Of course, it's all very rounded, very smooth, very neatly built, but it's almost like a voxel system, right? It's almost the same thing as the 3D world and the 3D land levels. And in fact, by watching this game, I noticed it's basically the same control system as Mario Odyssey. This game basically feels like the same game as Mario Odyssey when you look at the way the game plays. I haven't actually played this, but of course I've played Mario Odyssey plenty. And to me it feels like it's basically the same engine, using the same map development style, right? Behind the scenes, it seems like they're building their levels in the same way in both games. So I think it's an engine tool that they have that allows them to build their levels in the way that I'm planning to try and build a tool for mine. So let's switch back over to Tubby Toolkit over here. This is my little toolkit idea. So what I've got here is a little voxel section here. It's just my camera a little bit, yeah, let's go 60 FOV. That was weird. 50 was a bit off. But there we go. So if I pop open my Tubby Toolkit here, you'll see there's a bunch of yellow circles on the screen, right? And as I click them, you can see it switches between the yellow circle and the thin yellow circle. Now, what I can do is switch on Allow Generate. In fact, let me switch off Allow Generate and just click Generate for now. Each of the yellow rings is just a position on the voxel grid. And if you press Generate Voxels, you'll see it generates a single mesh with a single mesh collider here. If I was to convex it, you would see the green lines, although it might not be visible on your end. But let me just make sure it's showing the screen. Yeah, it is. So here's the thing, right? So you'll notice these are voxel-based shapes, right? But it's not really a regular Minecraft, block-to-block shaping system. I'm working on it a little bit to make it work a lot more like the sort of Mario-styled look, because I want to have a much more custom-built toolkit for Tubby Supercat, and of course for games going forward as well. If I could make levels the way that they seem to be making them, I would be pretty happy with that, because it would be an amazing toolkit for me going forward. It's not necessarily just for this game, although this game would be the premiere for this type of stuff, where I test it and Tubby can actually run around while I'm testing it as well. I'll show you that in a moment. But anyways, if I pop up the Tubby Toolkit again, you can see here that I've got the voxel controller here, but if I click, you can see the ring switches for this layer, but it doesn't actually generate it. So if I click Allow Generate, this will actually generate the boxes as I make them. Now you can see there's still a material problem here, where the grass material on top is actually being used for the sides if there's no grass material in that block shape. So for these shapes here, if I switch to wireframe, I'll switch to shaded wireframe, and you can see these blocks here, this section here is actually a section with only one material. It doesn't have the grass material on top. There's no grass surface, so it's actually accidentally using the wrong material there. But in the end, it is actually only two materials being used across the entire surface. So for example, I could switch out the grass for a different grass material, or I could switch it out to some of my dynamic object materials, my test materials, or we could just use brick, right? So we could use, let's say, orange brick, very, very Tubby style, and then I could switch it to dark sides. We could switch this to brick sides. There we go. So it's all it's all very, very neatly done. I just need to sort out the materials. And then there's a few corner pieces where there are problems. So you can see here there's some holes here in these sections. Now, of course, when I click, it will regenerate the entire grid within this voxel cell. And so as a result, it will lose those materials. But there we go, it'll switch back to the original materials. It does have a problem with closing this toolkit when you click, if any of these values change. As you can see, the materials change, therefore that failed. Now there is a negative button here which allows me to remove voxels. Although there is slight offset on the diagonals here, it ends up creating a voxel here. But it's not really a problem. It's just click in the right places and it should be fine. The cool thing, of course, is that, let me just hit save for a moment, is that while the game is running, let me move this to the side here. While the game is running, of course, this is all collidable, right? So Tubby can actually run around on here. But here's the coolest part. If we go, for example, over here, there we go, doubles, right? And then we load up the toolkit, and then I can click on the negative here, and you can see, while the game is running, Tubby is actively running on these voxel objects that I can generate while the game is running. So here we go, and this is one of the biggest reasons I want this to be integrated into my game worlds, right? Where I can just generate them and then run around and actually move on top of those objects. It's brilliant. Just completely having a voxel generated level structure here in the game. And of course, when I finish the game, when I finish the level, it'll switch back to the old one, but it still has that model that I built while the game was running stored, because it's not actually storing them with the object. So when the game stops playing, Unity usually resets all of the in-game objects, instantiated objects, back to their state that they were before you started playing. But in this case, I'm not actually using this object to store the data. I'm using a data mass object, right? So this is my voxel mass here. It just contains the materials which are not being used yet. No, sorry, ignore my voice there. I was just eating some cheese, cheese snacks. And so there you go. You can see the cells. And then within that is layers, which is actually my vertical positions. And then we've got the rows and the columns, right? So there we go. We've got the voxels themselves, and I can actually checkbox these immediately myself and update this as well. So that's all it is. It's just a voxel grid that is being stored as a separate object, right? So this is what's it called? This is a scriptable object in Unity, which means this is completely external to the game. I can literally copy paste this file wherever I want it. I can use it in a different project if I want, which means I can use this same toolkit completely outside of Tubby in a different project to build levels, and then use those same levels in Tubby even without keeping the model files. Of course, if I wanted to, right, once I'm settled with this object and I really like how it looks, what I would do then is take my Fpx Exporter, which is part of Unity. You can actually use Unity's Fpx Exporter. Let me just make sure my camera tracking is still working properly on my head, because my hair covers my face and then suddenly the camera tracking stops working. But here we go. So game object, export to Fpx, and then we can export it right into here. Keep it there. Right, and then we've got this object here now. So let me just copy the positions of this, switch this off, throw this in, and place it at the same position. There we go. We've got the same object now built using the Fpx exporter. It's an Fpx file now, which means I can switch on generate UV light maps, and now it also has light map UVs generated by Unity. So if I switch here to baked light map, you can see the light map UVs are generated, which means if I now load the lighting, let me just lower the texturization to 3 so that it's faster rendering. It's rendering on GPU, it shouldn't be too difficult. Hopefully the camera tracking hasn't gone absolutely berserk now, just running this in the background. And there we go. Now I have lighting generated on my voxelized object, which of course is no longer a voxel. This is an actual 3D mesh taken from an Fpx file, right? So there we go. But I now have baked lighting with it, so it looks great. it looks really, really nice. You can see these nice shadowed areas here. even if I was to switch off the light, for example, right? So if I switched off the lighting, you could still see there is some baked light map going on here. In fact, if I switch that back on and then just switch over to the light map itself, here you can see the light map. There we go, it's really nice. And we've got Tubby's house there in the background to show you that the light map is working. You can see how the orange of his roof is actually bouncing onto his ears there, his the sort of roof ears for the Tubby house design that I've got. Of course, you can see the baked looks a little bit low res. That's because it is very low res. You can see these boxes, these checker boxes are really massive, and that's just because obviously I'm running a recording setup with multiple Unity scenes all running at the same time, and OBS is, you know, recording. I've got a webcam tracker here, I've got a leap motion down here. It's all over the place. But there you go, that's the cool stuff that I've been working on. It's a very simple project for now, but there you go. Really, it is pretty awesome, very useful for me. It's just a tiny little thing for now. Unfortunately, there's not much to show, but I just wanted to get something out this week to show some of the stuff that I was working on, because it took quite a long time to actually get that voxel system working neatly the way that I wanted it to, and that's kind of the plan. There was a little bit more where if I click on the sides of that one voxel cell, it'll generate another cell next to it, and then of course I've built it to allow a cell system the way Minecraft would work as well, just to make sure that if I needed this in real time, if I wanted to make something like Minecraft, or just for the sake of, you know, building a game like that or using it as a tool at runtime, I would be able to do that efficiently, right? So because the reason you have a cell system is so that each cell is generated entirely by itself. You don't have to generate the entire level structure that you have all at the same time. But let's switch back over to the home sort of screen here, home room, home area, and that's about it really. There's not much more to go through today. It was just a quick video to show you a little bit of what's going on, and of course we've got Tubby over here who's got his nice little bubble now working as well. He's got some nice cool seating positions. There's still a little bit of work to do for this area here for Tubby to move around properly, but there you go, it sort of works for now. He's got a lot of work to do. If I was to press spacebar right now, he would sort of walk around on this table, and he's got his new seating positions set up as well properly so that they work, but I need to now work on the way he animates and the way he moves around the world. I also had another idea which I wanted to implement for this, which is, if you imagine while I'm talking, if this were in a live stream, for example, and I wanted to discuss something, as you can see, I'm going a little bit into discussion topics these days. You can probably see from the last video. Don't worry, the last video is not a normal video for me anymore. That is just a test of... It was also just an idea that I had in my mind that I wanted to share with the world, even though it wasn't very well received. But that's okay, that's expected anyway. But my idea here would be, I wanted to be able to discuss things with the chat, right? With the chat box in a live stream, whether that be Twitch or YouTube. But the best part of this is, because I'd be able to access the chat through Unity, right, as a plugin, I would also be able to filter it. What that means is I could change my chat screen, which would probably be generated here in the room or wherever I wanted it. Maybe it's on the table, and then we zoom in like so, and we just have it on the table, and we can talk to people like that or whatever. Otherwise, of course, we have it over here. We switch it onto our screen, and we can chat to the chat. Which is all really cool, right? It just depends on what scene I have. Maybe I'll be switching to different worlds as well. I'll be adding lots of worlds to this build anyway. But what I wanted to do is allow for filtering of chat, so that, for example, if someone has a question, and then we can actually have a discussion with them where they are the only ones that show up on the screen in their chat. Right, so they can chat, other people can still chat, they'll be in the chat box as the usual chat box on YouTube or on Twitch, whatever, but the person who's talking to me, who I'm addressing, the question that I'm addressing or answering, can be prioritized on the screen, and only their chat messages would show up while I'm chatting to them, and I can switch it back to normal chat as well, right? So that's the best thing about having plugin access to to those kinds of systems, right? The chat system would be that I would be able to manage what is showing up in the game world without affecting the actual chat. So this wouldn't be a moderation thing, right? Moderation would just be done as it is done. But rather than any sort of moderation, it would be to highlight certain questions and certain people talking, so that as I reply, they would still be able to type and actually message back, and their message would show up on the screen while I'm addressing their point. So it is a really cool setup that I've got here, but I really want to implement a number of things now. I'm still wondering whether I should end up being a YouTube streamer as opposed to a Twitch streamer, or if I'm just going to be able to restream to both. But in the end, it is how it is. I don't know. That's just stuff that we can decide over time, right? Hopefully, maybe a lot of people will want to see this stuff in live stream. I have a lot of ideas for this stuff. This structure, this room, this project over here, but it's going to take a little while. Once I get it actually working the way I want it, then it's going to be really cool. Really on the lookout for access to Tundra trackers as well, Steam VR trackers, lighthouse tracking for VR, and the reason for that would be that I would just be able to replace my camera tracking, my webcam tracking, because right now if I turn my head too much, things go a little wacky, right? And you've seen that in many of these videos. So I really want to upgrade from this tracking setup here, but for now it's really been doing me really well, because I just switch the webcam on and start up the video and I can talk like this. There's nothing on me, I don't have to sit in a certain way, but there is certain limitations that I want to address as well. So anyways, that's the end of this video. Thanks very much for watching. I know I ramble a little bit, as you probably noticed from the last video, but that's all I really wanted to show you. Thanks very much for watching. I will see you in the next video next week. Goodbye.